It's 2 a.m. and you're still staring at your laptop. Not because there's work left to do. You finished that hours ago. You're staring at it because the second you close it, you're alone with your own head, and your head is running numbers that don't add up, replaying a call that went sideways, wondering if the guy you just hired secretly thinks you're in over your head. You built this company to give yourself freedom. Right now, it doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like a leash you tied around your own neck. And you're the only one holding the other end. Here's what nobody tells you when you start a company. The spreadsheets aren't what breaks founders. The burn rate isn't what breaks founders. It's not even the competitors, or the investors who go quiet, or the co-founder who checks out 6 months before he admits it. What breaks founders is something so ordinary you've walked right past it 1,000 times. It's been sitting in your business the entire time, disguised as ambition. And almost 2,000 years ago, a man who advised the most dangerous ruler in the Roman Empire wrote it down in a letter, a warning so precise, it reads like he was watching your Slack notifications go off in real time. His name was Seneca. Now, if you've heard that name before, you probably picture some old guy in a toga saying something about accepting your fate. That's not this. Seneca wasn't a monk. He wasn't poor, and he definitely wasn't detached from the world. He was one of the richest men in Rome. He ran what was essentially the treasury, the speechwriting, and the crisis management for an Emperor Nero, a man so unstable that he eventually forced Seneca to open his own veins and bleed out in a bathtub, and in between advising a tyrant and being murdered by him. Seneca still found time to write some of the sharpest psychology ever put on paper, 400 years before the word business even existed. He wasn't writing self-help. He was writing to men exactly like you. Senators, merchants, builders of things. Men who had power, money, staff, reputation, and were somehow still miserable, still anxious, still one bad quarter away from feeling like frauds. Men who, from the outside, had already made it, and who quietly confided to Seneca that making it hadn't fixed a single thing they thought it would. Seneca had already lost everything once. He was exiled to a rock of an island for 8 years, on a charge that was almost certainly political theater, stripped of his position, separated from his family, left to wonder if he'd ever get his life back. He got it back. He built it bigger than before. And then he spent the rest of his life writing about the one lesson that experience burned into him, a lesson he was terrified other successful men would learn only the hard way, the way he had. And in one letter, to a friend named Lucilius, he laid out the exact mechanism that quietly wrecks high achievers. Not laziness, not bad luck, something almost the opposite. Think about your last 12 months. You didn't slow down once. You hit the gym at 5, answered emails at midnight, took the call during your kid's recital, said yes to the client who was clearly going to be a nightmare because saying no felt like leaving money on the table. You built a company most people would kill for. And somewhere in there, you stopped being able to name the last time you felt anything other than behind. That feeling has a name. Seneca called it living at the mercy of fortune, being pulled around by things you never actually controlled in the first place. Revenue, reviews, what a competitor just posted, what an investor thinks of your last deck, whether a stranger on the internet respects what you built. You didn't choose any of that. You just handed it the keys. Here's the part that should stop you cold. Seneca wasn't talking about people who were failing. He was talking about people who were winning. The successful ones. The ones everyone else envied. Because the trap doesn't spring When you're struggling, it springs the moment you get good enough that the outside world starts handing you things to lose. The bigger the company, the more there is to protect. The more there is to protect, the more of your peace of mind you quietly outsource to circumstances outside your hands. And most founders never notice it happening. They just notice, one day, that they used to love this and now they can't remember why they started. It happens so slowly you don't clock it as a loss. You just wake up one Tuesday running a company you built to feel free in, and you feel anything but free. You've felt this. Maybe you're feeling it right now. That low hum of dread that doesn't go away even on the good days. The way a single Slack message from an unhappy client can wreck your entire afternoon. The way you check your phone first thing in the morning, not because you want to, but because you're bracing for bad news that hasn't even happened yet. The way a great week doesn't feel like relief anymore, it just feels like the run-up to whatever goes wrong next. Maybe for you it's the investor update you keep rewriting at midnight, trying to make flat numbers sound like momentum. Maybe it's the employee who resigned last month, and you still haven't figured out if it was your fault. Maybe it's just the quiet comparison scrolling past someone else's "we just closed our Series A post" and feeling something curdle in your chest that you'd never admit to anyone on your team. Seneca had a word for that too. He called it anticipated suffering, paying for a loss before it's even real. Sometimes paying for a loss that never comes at all. He wrote that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Read that again, because if you're a founder, that sentence is basically your biography. You are not tired because the work is hard. Founders love hard work. That's why you're here. You are tired because you have spent this entire year reacting to things you were never meant to control and calling it leadership. So what did Seneca actually tell people to do about it? Not relax, not meditate on a beach. He wasn't interested in your comfort. He was interested in something much harder to fake: control. Real control. The kind that doesn't evaporate the moment a client walks or a round falls through. He drew a line, one single line, that separates the people who run their companies from the people their companies run. And once you see where that line actually is, you cannot unsee it in your own business. It shows up in your calendar. It shows up in the way you read a bad email. It shows up in the deals you take out of fear instead of judgment. I'm going to show you exactly where Seneca drew that line, and how 3 specific ideas from his ideas he used to survive exile, betrayal, and eventually a death sentence handed down by the man he'd spent years advising, translate directly into how you run a company, hire a team, and take a loss without it taking you. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The market doesn't destroy founders. Competitors don't destroy founders. Even failure, on its own, rarely destroys founders. What destroys founders is misplacing their peace in things that were never theirs to control in the first place, and Seneca knew exactly why, exactly how, and exactly what to do about it, 2,000 years before any of us built a single line of code. And this is the part that should really bother you. Seneca wasn't guessing. He watched it happen, over and over, to men who had everything you're chasing right now: money, titles, armies of people working under them. He watched them build empires, and then hand the emotional keys of that empire to a market they couldn't influence, a crowd they couldn't please, and a future they couldn't see. He watched it wreck them from the inside, while the outside still looked like success. Nobody at the top ever tells you it feels like this. So you assume you're the only one white-knuckling it. You're not. You're just the latest name on a very old list. Stick around, because the next part is where this gets specific, where a dead Roman's letters turn into something you can actually use the next time your phone buzzes with bad news. Here's the line Seneca drew, and it's simpler than you're expecting. He put it like this: some things are within our power, and some things aren't. Your opinions, your effort, your choices, your character, those are yours. Everything else, your reputation, your outcomes, other people's decisions, the market, luck, none of that was ever actually yours to begin with. You were just allowed to use it for a while. Read your last board meeting through that lens. How much of your stress came from things in the first category, your effort, your decisions, your integrity, and how much came from the second category, an investor's mood, a competitor's funding round, a client who ghosted you for reasons that have nothing to do with your product? Be honest. Almost all of it was category 2. You've been losing sleep over things that were never yours to control in the first place, and Seneca is telling you, across 2,000 years, that this is the exact mechanism that hollows out successful people. He watched senators do this. You're watching founders do it now on Twitter, refreshing engagement numbers like it changes anything about the work itself. This isn't an excuse to stop caring. Seneca wasn't asking anyone to go numb. He's telling you where to put your grip. You put everything you've got into your effort, your decisions, your character, because that's the only place your effort actually does anything. And you hold the rest, the outcome, the reception, the verdict of the market, with an open hand, because gripping it tighter has never once changed what it does. Grip harder on your side of the line. Loosen your grip on everything past it. That's the whole discipline, and it's brutally hard to practice and embarrassingly simple to explain. Here's how that looks on a random Tuesday. A client emails you furious about something you didn't even do wrong. Old you spirals for the whole afternoon, rewriting the reply 8 times, replaying it before bed. New you asks one question: did I act with integrity here? If the answer's yes, you send a clear, honest response, and you get back to building. Their reaction belongs to them. It was never yours to manage in the first place. That single habit, asking, was this mine to control before you let something wreck your day, will save you more hours of your life than any productivity app you've ever downloaded. Second idea. Seneca had a practice he leaned on constantly, one he taught to Lucilius over and over in his letters: premeditatio malorum. Premeditating the bad. Before something goes wrong, he'd sit with it in his mind, first not to spiral, but to rehearse it. What happens if the deal falls through? What happens if the client leaves? What happens if the round doesn't close and you have to make payroll out of your own account one more time? He wanted the disaster to visit his imagination before it ever showed up in real life, because a disaster you've already rehearsed doesn't get to blindside you. Most founders do the opposite. They avoid the bad scenario completely, because thinking about it feels like inviting it. So it never gets planned, for it just gets feared. And fear that's never been looked at directly doesn't go away. It just sits in the back of your skull, quietly draining you every single day you don't look at it. That's why the fear of losing the company can feel heavier than actually losing a deal. The unexamined version is worse than the real thing, every time. You already know this. If you've ever finally made the call you'd been avoiding for a month, the relief hits before the person on the other end even answers, because the waiting was the actual torture, not the conversation. Try this instead, this week. Pick the outcome you're most afraid of right now: the client leaving, the round falling apart, having to lay off someone you like. Sit with it for 10 real minutes. Walk through exactly what you'd do the next morning, who you'd call first, what the next 90 days would look like. Most founders who actually do this come out the other side and realize something wild. The scenario is survivable, not comfortable. Survivable, and once your nervous system knows that, the fear that's been running in the background stops running the show. Third idea, and this is the one that hits founders hardest, because your identity is usually fused with your company in a way that would have made Seneca deeply uncomfortable. He wrote that whatever fortune gives you, she gives on loan, not as a gift. Your title, your growth numbers, your headcount, your press mentions, none of it was ever handed to you outright. It was lent at terms you didn't get to negotiate, and it can be called back on a timeline you don't control either. Ask yourself honestly, if the company disappeared tomorrow, is there a version of you still standing, still worth something, still whole? For a lot of founders, the honest answer is no. That's not a character flaw. That's just what happens when nobody ever tells you the danger of building your whole identity on something that can be taken from you overnight. That's not pessimism. That's the exact insight that lets you build boldly instead of anxiously. Because if some part of you believes I am my company, then every dip in revenue is a threat to your actual self. And you will make decisions from fear, the kind of fear that turns founders into people who can't fire someone who needs to go, can't kill a product that isn't working, can't say the hard thing in a board meeting, because their whole identity is riding on everyone staying happy with them. But if you understand you are the one building the thing, not the thing itself, you can lose a deal, lose a client, even lose the company, and still know exactly who you are on the other side of it. That's not detachment. That's the only version of confidence that survives contact with a bad quarter. Put these three together, and you get something most people spend their whole careers looking for, without a name for it: an inner citadel, Seneca called it. A place inside you that market conditions can't touch. Not because nothing bad ever happens to you, plenty will, but because your peace was never parked in things that could be taken. You put your grip on your effort and your character. You rehearse the storm before it arrives, so it can't ambush you. And you hold everything fortune lent you loosely enough that losing it doesn't cost you yourself. 3 habits, not 3 mantras, a line you check yourself against, a storm you rehearse on purpose, and a grip you consciously loosen on everything past that line. This is what separates the founders who burn out at year 3 from the ones still building, clear-eyed, at year 20. Not more talent, not better luck. A different relationship with the things they can't control. So here's what I'd actually do with this, starting today. Take 5 minutes tonight and write down the 3 things that have been stressing you out most this month. Next to each one, write whether it belongs in the category you control or the category you don't. You'll probably find that almost everything on that list belongs to fortune, not to you, and just seeing that on paper does something. It loosens the grip that's been quietly running you into the ground. Do the same thing next Sunday, and the Sunday after that. This isn't a one-time insight, it's a habit. The same way training is a habit, the piece doesn't stay installed, you have to keep choosing it. Seneca didn't write any of this from a beach. He wrote it while serving a man who could kill him on a whim, which he eventually did. If he could build an inner citadel under those conditions, you can build one while running a company that on its worst day is still just a company. If this actually helped you see your own week differently, that's the whole reason this channel exists. Stoic Founder isn't here to sell you calm, It's here to hand you tools that were built by people who had a lot more on the line than a quarterly report. Subscribe if you want the next one delivered straight to you. Drop this to a founder who needs to hear it tonight. And let me know down in the comments which of these 3 ideas hit hardest. I read every single one.